All right. I think we're good. We're good. As you sit up.
Good to go.
Good to go. So, all right. First, the sponsors, though, before we get to the good stuff. I want to thank Gallotech for the walls behind us, Rhino Metals for all the tables, Blackwater Ammunition, Galco Leather, holsters. Of course, Riton Optics. Can't forget them. And Kenzies Optics, too. Full quartz and firearms. Yeah. Forgetting. Love those guys. Go check them out. Go to www.johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out all the sponsors. They're all listed there. A little support. And if you can leave a review, I do a terrible job asking for reviews. I'm awful. I'm doing better every week. I appreciate you guys. I wanted to have a special guest on today. Someone who can give us some insight into what's going on, not just at the ranges and just in the stores and who's coming in and just everything that's going on in the climate right now with firearms on the street level. And it's important that you get street cred. It's important to get that street cred, right? You get street cred.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. We got the one and only Alexis Hermosa.
What's up, guys?
What's going on? Now, you're from Machine Guns Vegas.
I am.
You are. But not originally from there. How did you even get into this business, and how did you even end up there, and how the hell, what are you doing in the gun business?
I have no idea. No.
That's the right answer from the start. How did you end up in this wacky business, and, you know, where did you come from?
Okay, so, I mean, it's not a typical story that people think is what it is. I didn't grow up around guns. I didn't grow up shooting guns, nothing. I played sports. I was a soccer player. That was my passion. That's what I did. That's what I wanted to do my whole life. So I worked my ass off, got a full ride to play soccer in college. Played semi-pro for a little bit, and then I was lucky enough to play on the Olympic national pool team for the women's national team.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. It was hard, but it was fun. And then after all that, after that dream kind of crashed and burned, moved back home, and I honestly just needed a job. And this is entered the gun world.
That's the most honest answer, and I love it because it is so honest. Like, I just needed a job.
But yeah, literally just needed a job.
So you sign up. you sign up for this crazy business.
Yep.
And here you are.
Yeah, here I am. I worked the sales side of this business of a machine gun attraction.
It's crazy.
For a year. And I was like, this is boring. Move me over to the gun side. And my general manager and manager were like, okay.
Yeah. It's a wacky business.
It is. I blame them.
Yeah, it is. It's a wacky, and it's very interesting. People don't, I like having a lot of different people on from all different walks of the business. You're on the ground level in terms of you're seeing the people every day.
Yes.
And you're face to face with the people. Now, when you got into this, did you ever anticipate it being as crazy as it is right now?
No. I would have never even thought that it'd be where it's at right now.
It's literally, and I try explaining this to people, you can't, to give everybody perspective listening that maybe doesn't walk in a gun store every day or a range, you can't even get ammo. Are you capping the amount of rounds people shoot?
We are pushing them towards other guns because we are so low on certain ammo. We just got a shipment in, so we were all excited. Yeah, it was like Christmas.
My pallet.
The other day.
Gone in an hour.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. So take me through the current climate, what you're seeing, who's walking in, and just how crazy it is for you.
Yeah, so it's a little different because it's a machine gun experience is where I work at, what I do. So people coming in have either never touched a gun before, or they see it on TV, in the movies, on the internet, and they think something totally different than what it is. So it's even scarier, but
terrifying, actually,
yeah.
As you're saying that.
Yeah, it's terrifying. But they, most of the time, get an appreciation for the gun, for the power behind the gun, and then they want to buy one, and then they realize what's going on in the world right now and why it's going on in the world. So they kind of come in unsure of why things are happening the way they're happening, and then they kind of spend some time with us and understand a little more.
Because the amount of new gun owners is what's staggering, and whether it's Machine Guns Vegas or some of the other ranges here, people just want to get their hands on it. They feel better if they train a little bit. They get some time behind the trigger, whether they want to buy one or not. I feel like more people are just getting in there to try, and they might make it a fun experience, like you're saying, a machine gun experience, because they want it to be fun and enjoyable. But at the same time, that question is swirling around in their head like, I need to go get one of these, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. And the climate right now has not only caused a lot of that, but it's exacerbated it in such a way that people feel like they have to participate in some form of self-defense, and shooting being sometimes the most readily available, because a lot of people are intimidated to go into a gym and start jiu-jitsu or start judo or some of those things.
Yeah.
So a firearm, believe it or not, becomes like, oh, let's go do that Machine Gun Vegas thing, or let's go do this, or let's go do that, because they just like want to get behind a trigger and say, okay, let me see what this is about, you know. And I feel like there's been a shift in the ranges where the people coming in and shooting are less the people that are like, hey, we're here for the bachelorette party, and it's more like the people that are like, hey, you got a full auto, I can shoot.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
People coming now and they want to shoot a pistol, they want to shoot a shotgun, they want to shoot an AR, something that they can have at home over machine guns sometimes, which is what we are. But
then you can't sell them anything because there's nothing.
I mean, you're right. Yeah. Exactly. So then they ask for it, and I'm like, well, you're gonna have to wait a little bit because everyone else is in line in front of you.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. People don't realize how bad it is to get your hands on really anything right now. And I try explaining it to friends and people that are like I had a friend. Let me think this through. I don't want to say his name. I had a friend that you know, he wanted a particular gun, and he wanted a SIG rattler. I'll say he wanted a SIG rattler because that doesn't give him away. And I'm like, you're looking at like a 12 to 20 week wait, dude. And that's even if I call in a favor, like a marker. And he's like, oh, really? Like, you can't pull. I'm like, there is, like, this is what I try to explain to people. There's no string to pull right now.
Yeah.
There's no magic, to everybody listening, there's no magical string right now that can be pulled.
So
stop at, yeah. Like, people come to you, they're like, hey, Alexis, can you get me like a Glock? And you're like, no. I'll sell you mine for $1,000.
Yeah.
How about that? You're like,
for real.
and that's what I try to explain to
For
people.
real,
That anyone listening, there's no magical string to pull right now.
No. Not on ammo either.
And and ammo even scarier.
Yeah.
When this first broke, I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you my story, and you tell me yours. When this first broke, I called a very, very, very large, notable ammo manufacturer and firearms manufacturer, and they said to me, they said, John, this is going to be really, really bad. And I said, what do you mean? It's going to be really bad or it's going to be really good? I said, what do you mean? And they said, we put a pallet of 9mm and a pallet of 223. This is way back in the beginning of COVID, of 223 out on the floor. And I'll tell you the company offline. And they said it was gone within hours. Gone. It's unprecedented what's happening right now. And we can get into COVID and the riots and all that stuff, but just in the firearms business right now, it's unprecedented. Now, what I want to get into with you is the people coming in, the questions they're asking, the things that are coming up, just the climate and the urgency is what's interesting to me, is how bad people are like, I need it. Now.
Yeah.
And it's a little terrifying. Now, I'm sure you have 100 stories like that because you're in the store every day. What do you see?
I will say one of the positive things I've seen recently is that, yeah, people want to buy the gun, but they also want to know how to use it. Because let's say a year ago, people just bought a gun and never used it, nothing. They just wanted it.
Collectors.
Right. But now they want training. They want to know how to do this, how to do that, what's the best way to do this. And so I think that may be the...
Well, there's a lot of positives, but not meeting the demand is what's scary for us right now, because we know we're going to have another run with the election. And that's what's terrifying right now, is you can't meet the demand. So you can't manufacture fast enough. So, and this is one of the things, okay, we're going to get into this. This is one of the, you know how I am. I get very fired up about this. This is one of the things that plagues the firearms business, and why the firearms business is so fucked when it comes to marketing and so fucked when it comes to how it handles every aspect of its business. Because you know this is true. These FFLs, a lot of times they have these runs, these crazy runs. And then what happens at the end of these runs is they end up with a whole bunch of shit on their shelves they can't sell because they just start buying anything. And that's why they get stuck with all kinds of product that they have a shelf full of Ruger 1022s. They can't get rid of. And you know it's true because you've walked in 100 stores and seen it. And that's what I'm worried is going to happen at the end of this. But the fact that we can't meet the manufacturing demand is terrifying. The fact that companies are struggling right now to meet the ammo demand is terrifying. And right now, I think a false positive goes out there because you brought up a good key point. People are asking and they want to learn. And you've seen this, and I know we can get deep into this. There's a lot of people in the firearms business in plain English that are fucking assholes because they discourage people from training. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. They have an elitist mentality because they want to be like, oh, you know, I've had them on the show. Oh, you know, this person, you know, they need to do this. They need to be special ninja forces before they can use that gun. And that is 100% not accurate. That is an internal conflict within the firearms business of whose dick is bigger. And that's one of the things that's bothered me for a long time about the firearms business and how it's structured. Hearing you say that is so encouraging and so good. And having people like you in the field that are fostering that ability to grow and to learn is what's really important. I would take 10 of you over 10 special ninja forces people out there instructing people. Because you're the person that needs to be the gateway for them to learn. And people have to ask the right questions and people have to be willing to learn. It's not about who wears Crye Precision pants. It's not about who has a backpack with 47 gussets. It's not about who has a special ice pick that can kill 14 people if you learn a special ninja way to use it. All that stuff is well and good. But you know this. I'm going to throw it back on you. 90% of the people coming in, you know, the shop or coming in to shoot, they don't care about that. And they're not going to learn that. And chances are, even if they did, they're never going to use that skill set. They just want to learn safety. They want to learn the basics. They want to know how to pull the trigger. They want to learn those things. That doesn't mean there's not a place for it. But I think too many people get caught up in being the 1%. But the 1% is just that, 1%.
Yeah. I think you laid it out pretty well. Yeah.
But it is a problem that plagues the business.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's pretty bad. And you walk around these parties or these places at SHOT Show, and everybody's talking about how bad they were 10 years ago. How nuts they were 50. I feel like I'm at the biggest high school reunion ever. Ever.
I've only been to one SHOT Show, but
it's true.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? It's painful.
Yeah.
It's actually painful to watch. I'm like, we should break out our Letterman jackets. This is really something. And you know being an athlete what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, half of them are fucking losers.
I mean, I don't know enough to say that, but...
But when you live in the past like that, and that's the attitude you take towards new people in the business, it bothers me because we need them.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, for some reason, new up-and-comers are frowned upon with however they're training or wherever they're getting training from, if they're not already, like, born with these qualities. They're frowned upon.
Now, you played high-level sports, so you can relate to this. Yeah. Is that crazy? It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I played football my whole life, all the way, you know, played at school, everything. I don't get it. That's foreign to me.
Somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. And it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu. Like, you show up to a mat brand new to train, and they're, like, so happy to see you.
Yeah.
Come on in, you know?
Yeah.
I've never been around something that had such... And it's not everybody. Right?
No,
it's not everybody. It's not everybody. But there is that polarizing. So having you say that, you know, it's important to everybody out there listening to take a page, to be encouraging, be excited to have new people come in, be happy that they're coming in and want to learn and want to take the time to shoot a little bit of everything. So hearing you say that is really, it's encouraging and it's important. You know,
that was me.
Yeah.
I started backwards. I started with machine guns. Before I even learned.
No, that's starting the right way.
Well, can't own a machine. Well, I guess you could get that. But
get that green permit.
That's right. And a whole bunch of money.
A whole bunch of money.
What I mean is, personal training, I started with machine guns before pistols. So I'm still on that path for pistols and concealed carry and all that.
It's wild, though. And it is a wild time. Now, do you think it's more, are people coming in, is it more because they're afraid? Is it because they think they're going to get attacked? I don't know the answer. Is it, what's the motivator that's bringing them in? You think? Or you see?
I think because where I work at Machine of Vegas, we don't sell guns. I think it's a little different than in a normal gun store. In a gun store, you see people coming in.
Well, we know the answer in a gun store. Yeah. Right now, we know it's a fear in a gun store. Coming in to shoot and actually take the steps in the process.
I think they're more fearful because they've never shot before.
So it's total zero.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the above.
All the above. Yeah, we know at this point in a store, it's mainly fear driven, which is another thing I take huge issue with, and I have taken issue with, whether it's with the NRA or NSSF, and I've had them on the show. It's always a fear driven message. It's always to drive fear, and I think that's terrible marketing, and I think that's terrible positioning. If I see one more picture of someone that was involved in a shooting on the NRA page or on their website or something, and they put like this thing like, this is a defender of America, like, it just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me want to sign up and get a membership.
Right.
You know, I'd like...
It makes it worse for the people who already dislike guns.
Right. I would prefer a value-added message. I'd like to learn something.
Yeah.
And that's what I look for in newsletters and in things that I read. You know, I look for something like, hey, what can I learn from this? And that's why I think there's a lot of... Larry's done a great job at the NSSF. Hats off to Larry. You guys done a good job. Laird has done a great job at SCI. Yeah, there's guys that are doing good work.
Yeah.
And they're trying. And especially with the NSSF, they're, you know, at Chacho, they do a lot of those breakout sessions and those learning. They're trying. I know we're not attending all of them, but they're trying.
Yeah.
They're still a little bit in the stone age with what they're offering because they haven't figured one key thing out, Alexis. This is the key thing in marketing the gun business. You know this. By the time you do it, it's already too late. So, like, they're offering, like, a Facebook, learn how to, you know, brand your business on Facebook. You can't anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
I read that class and I was like, huh.
When I saw that, I was like, but it's not that that's a complete waste of time. But what the issue is with that class is, why not do a TikTok class, or why not do
something before the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, something that you can relate to right now, not something we should have had 5 years ago.
They're trying.
But they're trying. You know what I mean? If you could reshape, you come into it with a fresh perspective, coming from soccer, coming from sports. I can relate to this background. What it drives you the most nuts about the marketing and the firearms business? You could say.
I'd probably say it's not like what you just said, not the fear aspect. It's when you're coming straight in, you need to go all the way up to 100 and not start at 1. Even in marketing, like just based off of what people are using or what people are like straight to a red dot sight, for example. People skip over iron sights for some reason.
It's a good point.
And I don't know why, but that kind of annoys me. Maybe because I want to take things like baby steps and learn everything until I'm comfortable and then move on to the next one.
Do you feel like anybody's laid out a good strategy out there in how they market, whether it's one of the institutions or even like a company? Do you see anyone out there that like you're like, geez, I like what they're doing?
So there's a company in Orlando, Full Spectrum Warrior.
Okay.
I've trained with him, and I really enjoy the way he trains because even if he has 3 different levels in one class, he will work with you on whatever level you're on, and then say the next person's above you, he'll jump to that level.
So tailors it.
Yeah. So
it's the right approach.
Right.
And I wish, you know, you make a good point with the iron sights. Like, I wish companies, whenever they're sending out a newsletter or anything that they do and how they approach you as the consumer or a potential instructor or potential, you know, authority, for lack of better words, I wish that they would take that approach. Like, start at 0, get to 1, then get to 2. It's a good point. And I can't take any credit for ever saying that, but it's a valid point. You know, I struggle a lot of times because I can look at any other business and find multiple companies that do a great job. And, you know, whether it's in video games, action sports, areas that are close to us, you know, they're in the same sphere. They do a great job, how they position things, even how they, you know, I'll give you a good example. Even how ambassadors are handled in this business. And you know, if you know anything about me, that's a battle I wage a lot behind the scenes because companies think, oh, I'll pay you, Miss Ambassador, $500 a month to promote my product.
Yeah.
But then they take no responsibility for creating the content. They just send you a gun. And like, it's like the weirdest business ever. So I've had to educate companies like, you can't do that. You have to fly them in, do a photo shoot, be professional, you know what I mean? And you have to put a plan together. You can't just like pay them monthly, give them a gun and be like, oh, go ahead.
Well, I think that's what it is now. Like
it's so bad.
The easy marketing right there.
It's lazy marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, lazy marketing. But people are benefiting from it.
Right now, everything seems like a home run. And that's what it is. The hope is that through this time, companies, brands, even ranges, everybody learns and we like move forward. We progress. That well, this worked really well or that worked really well. We need to look at these programs that work really well. And I think because of COVID, some of the good things that'll come out of it, I think podcasting, video, streaming, other areas are gonna excel. And I think that they should, right? Because we can't be so Instagram centric as a business. We're way too heavy. Everything is all about Instagram. Yeah, so it has to diversify a little bit more, and it needs to less be about being a glorified Glock 19 review all the time, and be more about the person and the people that we have on and the great people we have in the industry. And that's always been a struggle of mine, to give you perspective on where my mind is, because I think we have some great people. I really do. I think by and large, if everybody got in a room, and I'm not talking about shot show, sober, got in a room and had a conversation, and everybody talked, you could come up with a great plan. The problem is, you know, for the business, for the industry, for everything to move the ball forward for us as a culture. Because I think there's so many great people.
Yeah, but how are you going to see those people if you don't have social media?
Well, you have to have social media. It just has to be diversified. And podcasting still is a form of social media, and so is YouTube. I mean, of course, all those areas are still social areas as long as you can comment on them, right? And as long as you can interact in some way, shape, or form. They're not like IG or Facebook where it can be, I don't like to use the word like so instant, but like there is that instant gratification. Yeah. The problem with Instagram for a long time is it's very picture driven and the context gets lost. Now they're putting in more and more things to make it more about video, which I think is a step in the right direction. Yeah. Because I think you're the best part of the gun business. I think the person is the best part of the gun business. And I think getting them to talk and open up and share their stories, whether it's working with people, how they got into the business, what they love about the business, that's what's going to win in the end. If I got a newsletter tomorrow and it said, check out the latest interview with Alexis or check out the latest whatever with, you know, whomever, I would open that up because I'd be like, geez, I want to get to know that person.
All about connection.
Instead, it's always like, check out this mag dump. I mean,
hey, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. But I think context gives it everything.
Yeah.
And I think
I'll agree.
Yeah, I mean,
I have the same, like, you follow certain people for a reason. Because you want to follow their story, not necessarily whatever they're shooting, but you want to
their journey.
Support that, yeah.
Their journey. So, you know, how this plays out with COVID, with the election, and whether or not the industry can meet the demand, learn from its marketing, develop, grow, internally and externally, is going to be interesting. It's really interesting to me. You know, either we're going to get a massive run, which I think we're going to get anyway, but we're not going to meet the demand during the election. Trump wins, we still have a run. He loses, we have a massive run that we can't meet the demand. How does this play out in your mind? Chaos?
Either way, it's chaos. honestly feel like no matter what happens, there's chaos. I don't see any way that this doesn't lead.
And it's chaos in a good way. It's just frustrating because we can't meet the demand.
Yeah.
As an industry.
Yes.
Because when people come in, there's nothing worse than when you say, we don't have that.
Right.
Or I can't sell you that. Or not so much that you sell or you can't shoot that, but you know what I mean, because you end up referring people to anyway to
Right.
other spots.
Yeah.
You know?
But you hope that you have it.
Yeah. What do you refer people to the most? What do you find, whether it's handgun or rifle?
Handgun and handgun. What do you mean? Where do I?
Yeah, like what brand? What do you fall under? What camp? Smith & Wesson?
I like
Glock.
Glock.
There you go there. Same. It's pretty easy. Although SIG on the rifle side, to me, nothing's better than the Rattler. To me, that's the best rifle made. Or the Copperhead. The MPX.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Although I did see that make that dance a lot.
We don't use the J word. Malfunctions. Malfunction. But for the most part, people do end up shooting a Glock a lot, more often than not.
Yeah.
You know, unless they go Gucci and they get something else. Now, you went to SHOT Show, Gucci guns. You went to SHOT Show, you walked around. What'd you think? First year impression.
Madness. There's so much going on. You don't even know where to stop. You want to stop everywhere, but you can't on the time. There's a lot. But it was pretty badass. There's some cool shit out there.
Oh, I love SHOT. I think SHOT Show is amazing.
Yeah.
I think there's too many booths, but that's another story.
There are a lot.
You know, I don't think everybody who has a pouch should have a booth at SHOT Show, but that's, you know what I mean? But I'm hypercritical of it in that sense, because I think that they could make it. I think anytime you trade time for money, you're going to lose in life. And I think anytime you trade booth space for money, and that's kind of the formula they use, it's not the ideal formula. I'd like to see more programs, more things. It's wild to me in our business because I think ranges stand to have a huge leg up coming out of this, because whether it's gun ranges, people like John Lovell at Warrior Poet Society, they're figuring it out faster than, like, you can have an online business right now offering classes, which is something like the NRA has to a point. They started putting some of their stuff online, their courses, but the NSSF, other flags, other arms could be doing a better job of, or could be capitalizing on. But you as a person could have 10 times better a business than half of the institutions that we lean on for that information. And I think that's crazy to me. It blows my mind. You know, I think it's like nuts that, like, some of this stuff can't be online, or you can't sign up for, you know, whether it's, you know, there should be so much more online available to get involved with or to interact with. Although I know they are making huge steps at the NSSF to do more of that. But I think that SHOT Show could be more interactive and more online.
Yeah.
You know, especially a lot of the events could stream. And that's something that they should look at, especially even for this year, is streaming them. Why not?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, why not?
Definitely a good year to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to change one thing at SHOT Show, what would it be? I'm curious because you're new to it, so you're fresh. Your perspective is fresh. It's not tainted like mine.
I don't know. I got feedback. I feel like that's a whole year.
Too many booths.
Well, yeah, but business-wise, you want to fill the space.
You have to fill the space. I think going into other areas of the buildings and things like that will be interesting to see how that plays out. I would say more online. I think they should just make it more interactive. You know?
How would being online be interactive? Just
So,
watching it?
if you could stream, for example, the classes, like those breakout classes and stuff, some of them, I think that would be really cool. Because you could go back and you could watch stuff you missed, right? So if there was something you wanted to see, you could be like, oh, geez, I wanted to catch that class. Let me put it on, you know, whatever. And I think being able to put more, like the NSSF should have certifications that you can get as an FFL or as a range or whatever, that like you could sit through and take tutorial classes on. Because I think that stuff's cool. And you could learn a lot of different things, whether it's marketing your business, whether it's, learning who the suppliers are. Like the supplier show is so underappreciated. Like there's so much shit up there. Like you could start a gun company up there 5 times over. And that's a great show. But you never hear anyone talk about it, right? It's never highlighted.
I didn't hear about it till the last day.
And I think it runs, the first 2 or 3 days? It's upstairs. And it doesn't run the whole length of the show. I think it's the first 2 days.
Okay.
It's like the supplier showcase. Yeah. But stuff like that I just think is like underappreciated, undervalued, and underemphasized. But how, the how is always a thing. So like, a better example is you take like something like SCI or the NRA show. That stuff should stream all the time because there's so much, and there's so much information. I was at SCI and I think it was Dawn and Kimberly were speaking, and I was like, why don't you guys stream this on your YouTube? You know what I mean? Like they were doing a rally for hunting and everything, and everybody looked at me like I was like crazy. I'm like, you need like a cell phone to do. Like I could do it right now.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you stream this?
Facebook Live.
Yeah, like, but that's what I'm saying. Something simple like that. Like, why that content isn't put out there. Because you generate your own content. You see the value in it. Do you ever have enough content? No. Never. So it's something that isn't easy. Now, you've developed a following because of all this. It's kind of wild, right?
It's very weird.
It's weird. Now, what do you think of all that side of the business, the influencer marketing?
It's weird. I like it and I dislike it at the same time. I don't want to be an ad, a walking ad for people. And I've seen that with other influencers and I don't want to be a part of it, to be honest.
So how do you change it? Here's what I said. I'm going to tell you what I said to someone. Okay. Very big influencer in our business. And they're just an influencer. And I don't mean to say just an influencer. But that's like kind of how they branded themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I said, if you were on Fox News tomorrow, how would you be introduced? And the girl called me 2 separate times within that week. And she goes, what you said to me is haunting me. Like it's haunting me. Because people don't think of that.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be introduced as so-and-so? I won't say that name. So-and-so influencer. She'll know when she's listening. She'll listen. And she was like, oh my God, like I feel so cheap. Like I feel like, and I'm like, influencer's not a bad word. It's not to say it's a bad word. But like you said, you have to evolve. And the way you evolve is whether it's to writing a book, podcasting, marketing yourself more as an authority, or a lot of instructors, the path is easy. They start out as, I'm going to be a shoot fast guy. I'm going to shoot fast. That's my credential. I'm going to draw quick and I'm going to shoot fast. And then they evolve into, I'm going to put knowledge out there. So knowledge becomes like step 2. So then they become somewhat of an authority in the space. And their past may dictate that they are too. So that helps. So they have a background. But beyond that, sometimes you notice they struggle to find the next thing. What's the next thing? And whether it's writing a book, public speaking, motivating, that's why fitness has come into shooting so strong.
Yeah.
Because fitness is a logical other avenue for people to go down. Because if you train, you have to be in shape. Right. And that's what draws a lot of people towards the sport of shooting or the sport of training. But the reality is, I think, the reason it's become a dirty word, or like you said, you feel like a billboard, is because people don't know how to evolve past that. And I've had this conversation with multiple people, guests that have come in, after the show, we talk about it. Yeah. And I'm like, you need to look at doing this, this, and this. And there's not a person that hasn't left and they're like mind blown, because you have to evolve. Otherwise it's not fun anymore. Right? Yeah. I mean,
stuck in the same rut.
Yeah, only you can change it. And you have to reach a point where saying no becomes really important. Like, you know how it starts out? Everybody offers you what in the beginning? A T-shirt.
Right.
Hey, we got a T-shirt for you.
Wear this for me.
Wear this, take a picture. And you're like, ugh. At first you love it. And then you're like, oh,
yeah,
God.
I'll be honest. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
then it's like, here's a muzzle brake. Yeah, it turns into a thing. So you just have to create standards.
Yeah.
You find the people you like to work with. You find the people you enjoy working with. You slowly take steps towards working with them, but then you have to put your foot in the ground, whether it's you want to be paid or whatever. But you know this better than anybody being an athlete. And this is why I'm the way I am. At some point, running around on a range or running around doing anything physical, the physical side of you is going to diminish. Those skills are good. There's always going to be somebody bigger, faster, stronger, right?
Right.
That's going to diminish. So you either evolve or die.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. That's
Yeah.
where the influencer, there's a life cycle
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
So you're never going to be as young as you are right now.
Yeah.
It's scary when you think about it.
I know.
And when you say that to a lot of influencers, it's like, not to say that that's you, but this is what sometimes you want to educate them on. Like, you have to start to evolve as a brand and what you want to be and how you want to be remembered and how you want to be introduced.
Yeah. In my experience, this just kind of like rolled in, just fell on my lap. It wasn't something that I tried to do. So I think for a lot of people, if they're in that situation, we don't think about what happens now. What do I do now?
You make it up as you go.
Right. So, yeah.
How do you want it to evolve for you?
So
in a perfect world, if you had every resource.
Every resource. Honestly, I like the machine gun aspect of it. Of course, I'm a competitive person just by nature and play sports, all that good shit. So I want to get into the competitive side of it, but I don't need to know all the specs on everything. I honestly don't give a shit. I like.
You like to just drive the car.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some people are that way, and that's fine.
Yeah. It's also pretty cool though, having a first timer come in and shoot a machine gun and then seeing their face. Like, that's one of my favorite things too.
The fulfillment.
Kind of random, but yeah.
No. That's the fulfilling part of it.
That's pretty cool.
There's nothing better than finding fulfillment in a job, and it's not about the money per se. It's about seeing somebody enjoy the moment, being in that moment.
Yeah.
And like you said, a first timer, there's nothing like that face.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever had anyone be like, I need to get out of here, this is crazy, like run for the door?
On both sides of the spectrum, yes. Like, so scared they need to run out, yes. Like, almost shit your pants scared, yeah. And then also their adrenaline was just like through the roof and they couldn't stand still. So both sides of it, yeah.
They shoot out the ceiling.
Yeah,
That happens. It's just a reality of it.
Yeah.
That face when someone does a full auto there's no face like it.
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
No face like it. Are you gonna stay in the machine gun space, or would you dovetail into more competitive shooting on an ongoing basis, or just dabble?
I think I'm just gonna dabble. I've got this other passion of mine that I really kind of want to step into that space, which is not guns. It's home renovations, but
Renos.
yeah, I did my first and it got me hooked.
Now, will you buy the houses and flip them?
I did it on this first one. Past that was just kind of like a experiment. Let me dip my toe in this, see how I like it.
Well, you're in the right area to do it.
Yeah.
Vegas is a good area to do that. To dabble.
Oh, yeah,
You haven't done one here yet?
no.
Vegas is a good area to do it. Orlando's good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have a side. You have to have 10 side hustles today. And that's kind of more.
You can't just throw all your ducks in one basket.
Do you think that that's
Whatever that's saying.
Do you think that that's over? Like having like one steady job.
Yes.
That's
I
like
really
dead.
do. Yeah.
I have that conversation with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think that's reality anymore.
You got one steady job.
Like you work at the mill from 9 to 5, and you have nothing going on the side. And nobody's saying the side hustle needs to be like this $1 million side hustle.
Yeah.
But you have to have your hand in something else.
Yeah. A lot of people make masks now.
Is that crazy? That's like blows my mind.
Everyone is making a mask.
Hustling.
Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah. That's like when social media first popped up, everybody wanted to run Instagram pages. And I'm like, I try to tell people now, I'm like, that's not a business. I'm like, that's like, like.
I mean, it can be if you run so many.
If you can create a really good marketing firm where you're legitimately providing a value add, whether it's photos and there's packages, and you can design a business around it. But I think, at least because I've seen it, there's too many people running around trying to like make a living off of it long term.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they have a plan, because you have to have a plan. And that sometimes is like where I'm like, okay, so how do you create content? Or like, what's the strategy? And they're just like, well, I just run the page. And I'm like, you ain't gonna have a job for long.
You gotta have a plan.
You gotta, what's the plan here?
Yeah.
How does this work? Now, when you guys have guests in and people want to buy packages, how expensive is it? It's expensive to shoot full autos, right?
Yeah, it is pretty expensive. But you gotta look at where you're shooting and where else you could shoot it, which is in a lot of cases, not a lot of places. But
One gun.
one gun, you shoot it for $55.
All the ammo?
One mag.
Now, what's a package cost?
Packages start off at we actually have $150. 3-4 guns.
Goes quick.
Yeah. I would say it's worth it.
If you've never done it, you have to do it.
Well, yeah.
That, I think, goes without saying. If you've never done it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
I'll say that. If you've done it a few times and you're taking someone who's never done it, that also adds a layer of enjoyment.
Yeah. And then you can choose the one gun you haven't shot before.
What's the most requested? MP5?
I would say our gamers package. Everything in that gamers. The Glock, MP5, M4, 18.
You guys have an 18 there?
Glock 18? Yep. And a full auto gun. I think it's a good one.
Is that the best full auto ever created?
I think it's the fastest ever created.
It's pretty.
I wouldn't say it's the best.
I think it's pretty fucking rad. I mean, because I'll tell you why. Because if you could carry that, it's fucking amazing.
That way you can shoot in the sky for half of your day.
It would be fun. The least requested. The least requested gun, whether it's for fear or it's gotta be a Desert Eagle.
No.
You have to talk people into that, don't you?
No. People request that gun all the time. And actually,
it's the least. Is it the least practical gun though?
Yeah. But in the last week, I've had brand new people, never shot a gun before, ask to shoot that gun. I'm like, why? Why that one?
It's so obnoxious.
It is. So no, that's not our least requested. I maybe the Vector, but probably because it's not ours is not full auto.
Yeah, it's a weird looking gun too.
It's kind of cool.
It reminds me of a Styrog for some reason.
Yeah.
It's got that weird look to it.
Yeah.
If you could have one gun be a full auto that's not, what would it be?
Well, we did make an M1 Grand full auto.
That's wild. That is wild.
Quickly took that off.
Yeah.
The waist there.
It'd be expensive too.
Yeah. And nobody wanted to shoot it because it was full of 30x6 stabbing you to shoot it.
It's heavy too.
Yeah.
Piece of lumber to lift.
It's a nice gun.
M1s are.
Yeah.
I had a friend just buy an M1, and I'll tell you my M1 story. I have a weird... Somewhere, John Oliver, BCG Media, is listening, and he'll know this story. I'm not going to say all of it, but I'll say enough. I had an M1 Grand. I sold it. They're a labor of love because you never keep an M1 Grand stock unless it's a vintage piece. So they're called what I call project guns. So you got to put a lot into them. There's just a lot of headaches. So anytime anyone says to me, hey, I got a good deal on an M1, I'm like, ugh. Because I know the work that goes into them and the project that it can create, because I'd want to like rip the stock off. I'd want to put, the right optic on it. I'd want to do all this crazy shit to it. And then when you're done with it, you're like, now what?
Right.
Because it weighs 4,000 pounds, and you're like, where am I going with this? I'd like to see a 4570 in full auto.
What?
I think that would be fucking righteous if someone could ever pull it off.
Yeah.
But it'd be really hard. 4570, or I'm a big fan of 10 millimeter full autos, but no one's ever able to do it successfully that I know of.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I know it's been incredibly difficult to harness in a pistol caliber carbine. There was talk that certain brands, I'm not going to name them or call them out, were doing it because I like them, but they pulled them and we never seen them. Like at shot, they'll be like, oh, this is coming, and then you just don't see it.
Yeah.
But if someone could pull off, if anybody out there could pull off a 10 millimeter full auto PCC, that would be fucking amazing. It wouldn't be cheap either to shoot.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap round. But that would be a fun one.
Yeah,
I would say, I gotta think. I would say, no. I go more off the caliber, like what caliber I would like to see, taking everything else out of it. Okay. Like if someone could harness the caliber in a full auto, 10 millimeter would be up there. 4570 would be up there. Because I think that would be fucking wild.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see someone shoot that.
Mm-hmm. But 10 millimeter we have seen in spurts, but it's rare. You don't see a lot of 308s in AR-10 platform full auto that function really well.
Yeah.
That would be interesting in that platform, in that specific platform.
Yeah, otherwise you have the SCAR.
Yeah, you have the SCAR. You have there's other things that are in that 30 cal space. But I'm saying in...
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, like a chopped down AR-10.
Yeah.
Would be pretty sick. Almost pistol. That would piss off a lot of people because it's not set up right. But there's a lot of cool ideas, and plus, you can always build your own weird shit in the back that.
Yeah. But
10 millimeter would be probably the most. 10 millimeter would be the closest that it could be done. It would be a bitch because it would malfunction so much. Because they just have bad. It's hard because it's all built around the feeding system. So how would you feed it? You'd have to feed it through a Glock mag. That'd be Glock fed. You'd have to use it in a PCC platform, ideally, because how are you going to shoulder it? And then, unless you put a full auto sear on a Glock 20, which would be obnoxious. Yeah. Obnoxious. What do you think? Could someone do it?
I'm not sure someone could do it.
We haven't seen it yet. We've seen it in pockets, very small pockets.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't. I think it'd be pretty cool. It's not something you've seen yet, but.
Yeah, it's something for the mad scientists to think of in the back. We're gonna have to get back to this one.
Yeah.
But it's a topic we could spend all day on.
Keep that on the table.
We're gonna keep it on the table. You have to start with the caliber, like what caliber you'd like to see, and then back into it by the platform and the feeding system, and try to figure out if it's possible.
That's the only caliber we've mentioned that I haven't worked with.
You know the history behind it? The Miami shootout? So for all the experts out there, I'll probably get this wrong, but I'm going to try. There's a shootout in Miami.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, they'll let me know. There was a shootout in Miami that led to, I'm going to cut a lot of pieces out to make this easy, that led to the development of the 10 millimeter. which then led to the 40, which is how the 40 came to be in many ways, because the FBI wanted a round that ballistically offered a little bit more than what most of their guys were carrying, which at the time was the 38 Special.
Right.
Because they got into a shootout, they got their ass handed to them, and they felt that they didn't have enough. And the only reason they were able to get out of the shootout was because I believe one guy, and this is the part I'm going to get wrong, had a 357, and that was able to punch through the cars because there was a shootout around cars and create some damage. Yeah. And a lot of the other guys had higher firepower firearms. Now, the 10 millimeter survived the test of time because it has an appeal to hunters and to people, outdoorsmen. It has a space. It's not like a defunct round. The 40 is the funkiest round that no one can figure. I can't figure out for the life of me why it survived. It's a horrible round.
When this whole thing happened, that was probably the most requested caliber.
And you know why?
Yeah, but nobody has it.
It's
why?
Okay, I'll tell you.
Still.
It's requested because people think because police use it. Because the first person they ask is like a cop, what should I buy? Buy a 40. And the only reason the 40 exists is because boards of chiefs collectively got together and decided 40 was going to be like the blessed caliber. And that's what everybody was going to buy. Because for whatever reason, yeah, they thought like, okay, we need something that's better than a 9 because a 9's not enough. I got the 40. And the 40 is it's not the 45, which Clint Smith somewhere will really love the 40. Love me for saying the 45 is a good caliber. Has a place, the 1911, the barbecue gun. But the 9 gives you more rounds and gives you, in my opinion, because, see, here's what I think. Bullet technology has improved a lot faster than gun technology, meaning the refinement of primers, powder, the way that bullets are made. You get less snappiness out of the 9. It's not as snappy a round. It's a cleaner firing round, and you're less apt to have malfunctions because the gun doesn't jump as much. Now, with all that being said, is the 9 better, and I use air quotes, than the 40? I think it is because it gives you more ability to have more rounds, and if you're carrying 3 mags, you're going to have a little bit more forgiveness, and you're still going to do the same amount of damage if you hit somebody, in my opinion, because of the improvements on the bullet technology. Yeah. I think it's negligible between what the 40 gives you and the 9. And you guys can fight it out in the comments below and everything else, and everybody can argue and have a battle. But that's what I believe.
Okay.
And I could put 5 experts on that would probably say the same thing.
Yeah.
But the 40, for whatever reason, is, to me, a bastard round, but stuck in everybody's head as a go-to. My opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion. That's what I think. I don't know what you think, but I just think it's burned in everybody's brain because they go to their neighbor, little Tommy or whoever is a cop in the area, and they're like, yeah, get a 40. I've never owned a 40 in my life.
I honestly have never got one.
I've never owned one. I've shot one. I've never owned one. And I wouldn't. I try to keep it. My 3 or 4 favorite calibers go 9, 223, 5.56, obviously 10 millimeter, 45-70. Okay. That's where I try to live and breathe, is in those spaces. Because to me, if you're going to buy a hunting caliber round for North America, 45-70 is going to give you everything you want. Do you need a 308 or 6.5? Yeah. And I look at those rounds as interchangeable. Great hunting round.
Yeah.
6.5 gives you a little bit flatter trajectory, a little bit more, in terms of ballistics for the average distance that you're shooting and so on. It would probably supplant the 308 if the price of the cartridge wasn't ridiculous, because it all comes down to price, which is part of the reason why we saw, if you remember, about 2 years ago, all the rage was the Valkyrie. Everybody was like, yeah, get a Valkyrie. That's going to change the whole game. And I told every weapons manufacturer at the time, I was a CEO of a firearms company, and I told them, I said, that's never going to catch on. And they were like, why do you say that? Look at the cost of a round. Who's going to buy that? It doesn't give you enough for the price.
Right.
There's just not enough there. Do you find yourself having these conversations with people in the range?
Not to this extent. Because
It's a hotly debated thing, Calvin.
well, yeah, but remember they're newbies. You got a little more knowledge than that.
What's like the number one preconceived notion they come in with? Like, what's like burned into their head that you have to unteach them or unfuck them? How they hold a gun.
Yeah.
What?
That's what went through my brain.
I figured.
Was, everyone's stance and how they think they should hold a gun, based off of whatever video, movie,
Something.
whoever they saw holding a gun like that, and it just also that they think like a rifle is super scary and they would rather shoot a pistol because they think the rifle is so hard.
It's the opposite.
Yeah. Sometimes I like bet people like the MP5 better than.
Oh, the MP5 super soft shooting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But people
Super
think because of how much bigger it is, it's harder than a pistol.
It's hard to break people of the stance and the grip thing, especially if they come in with like what I call movie knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hardest part. That's a very difficult one to redirect, for sure.
Yeah, because I don't want to listen to you most of the time.
Does it ever shock you when you see like range accidents? Are you ever like, I can't believe that happened?
Luckily, I haven't seen a lot.
Not in your range, but I'm saying on the internet and everything. Like, you ever like, how the fuck did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, that one that's scarred into my brain is the Uzi.
Yeah, the little girl.
Yeah, that one. I heard about it when I first became a range safety officer, and ever since then, like that's the one story that is stuck in my brain.
She never should have been put in that position. What's your take?
I mean, I think it's a horrible situation. So yeah, I don't.
Was she too young?
Honestly, I've had little kids even younger than I shoot, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's about age.
See,
I just don't think she was
ready.
No, I don't think you can't blame her at all.
No.
It's whoever put the gun in her hands, unfortunately.
I think it's a combination. Like, we don't know enough from that video.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
It might have been a nerves thing. It might have been there's a lot, you know. And I've seen people work with people that work with full autos because it's a different animal. And you have to stay really close. You have to be on. You have to
be on the correct side.
Yep. You have to be prepared to protect them from themselves.
Right.
In so many ways. That's a horrifying one. I was thinking even of like the guy with the revolver that smacked himself in the face. Like that one's fucking hilarious. You know, like people like that like when that stuff happens, like
I meant to do that.
Yeah, I meant to do that.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
They try to play it off, and you're like, what the fuck?
Or like a front flip, gun falls out.
Oh my god.
Who was that?
The guys that shoot themselves in the leg. And this isn't like in a range specifically. It happens a lot. This actually, to everybody listening, it's a super common one.
Yeah.
Because guys try to be the quick draw guys or whatever, or they get their finger on the trigger a little too quick, or when they're holstering, they're not holstering properly.
Or you try and take your slide off and you don't clear your gun first.
Mm-hmm.
You start spraying the leg.
The guy with the Kimber was the guy on the range that he goes, I shot myself in the leg. It was that guy. And, you know, it's horrifying to see. And these things get posted on the internet and they get passed around. Everybody's like, oh God, you know. But they really, if people paying attention out there, they're learning experiences. Like you have to take away like everything has to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
So you take your time and you understand everything you're doing and understand your equipment, understand what you're shooting.
It took me a while to be comfortable just carrying a gun around work. Like
Yeah.
A year.
Because you have to.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But when we see these videos get passed around, a lot of times they don't again, they lack context, some of them it's explaining.
Right.
Some guys do really great detailed, like if you follow Tony Blau or certain people, they'll lay out like this 8-page detailed thing and they'll lay it out. But that's kind of stuff, educating people on what went wrong or what the issue was or what not to do. What not to do is more important. And I think sometimes when it's instructing or having people on the range or having multiple people on the range, because I've been on a range with multiple people, you have to keep an eye on everybody and you have to watch. You can tell by being around a lot of the people who is going to be a liability and who isn't.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which people don't realize. It presents itself pretty frickin' quickly.
Yeah. Just by their body language.
Which is why, I like instructors. I'll throw this at you. I like instructors that when you go to train with them, if it is going to be a social media thing or it's going to be like people are going there and they're getting content, which you understand and you respect. That happens in everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Race car drive, everything that happens. I like instructors that are like, we have a photographer here today. They're going to take all the photos or videos that you want. You don't need to take your phone out.
That's my favorite.
That's the best.
And I can pay attention.
Because then you can pay attention.
Yeah.
You can learn. And I know that to every instructor out there, that can't be every class, that can't be all the time. But when you're going to have, whether it's influencers or people there, and you're going to do one of those types of classes, that to me is an absolute necessity.
Yeah.
Because once you start pulling the phone out a lot, I've been on ranges where people have been, whether it's sent home or, hey, you can't take your phone out 15 times in the middle of a drill.
Yeah.
And that stuff happens. Great.
And to me, I feel like I lose the benefit of me being.
Oh, yeah.
Like I know I need to post a video or
Content.
something of me being there, but I also want to learn while I'm there.
Well, I think in today's world, you have to accept the fact that people do want to memorialize the moment, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to create a safe environment for that memorialing of it. So a lot of times before classes, like even down at Tony's Real World Tactical, when we go train down there, Tony will either have a photographer or videographer there, or he'll say, we take a group picture, or if you want to take a picture during a break, you want to stage something out, we can set that up for you. We can make that a possibility. So it's not affecting the class, it's not going on during the class. There's a break at lunch. After the class, we can stage a couple things, and that's like a lot of times what I suggest to a lot of instructors, because as they get to newbies, when they start in stride, they'll say, well, how do I handle this or how do I handle that? I say, you need to just create set safe times. Like, hey, you can do this now or do this later. But I think just create a safe structure. Hey, you can go out there, fire 3 rounds, and you can get the video you want or the content you want with safety in mind. And most people are already back behind the line and it's staged and it's set up properly. So nobody, is running around like, hey, we're in the range. Now, speaking of that, when you look out there, do you believe in the theory of gun bunnies?
So,
what's your take on it?
People ask me this all the time because I guess I'm somewhat in that category.
I don't think so.
People have said that to me before, and then
I don't think so because I'll answer it quick. You work in the business, so I don't think that you are.
Cool, but at the same time, I don't have anything against them. I know people do, or that term. I know people do for whatever reason, thinking that they might degrade the culture and everything, but more power to you. If you're actually learning and holding the gun, I know a lot of times it's not, but
I don't think anybody who cashes a paycheck in the business should have that term bestowed on them. It's my opinion. Because at that point it becomes your job.
Not in the business. Right. So, okay, so how about we define gun bunny?
Give me your definition. I'll give you mine.
I think it is specifically someone who just models with guns. Which in my mind, that's their job.
The question becomes, are they paid to do it?
Right. In my mind, they're getting paid. that accurate?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not for a majority.
Well,
Probably not. Yeah, probably not for a majority. See, here's my thing on it. I think it's a terrible term. I think it's a terrible term. I think it is degrading. I think it's a terrible term. Because here's the thing. I think in reality, anybody trying to progress or push the industry forward in a positive way, as long as it's positive. Now, do I think that contextually there's no place for, someone to be, whether male, female, whatever, half butt naked, holding a gun or whatever? I mean, there's not a lot of context there. Like, you got to tell, like, if I'm a marketing director, I'm saying, like, what is this? You know what I mean? What are we doing here? Because here's the thing. If you market yourself that way, male or female, and there's both, you know that, you have to ask yourself as a company, what does this do for my brand? Are they building a community, or are they just building followers? And there's a lot of people, and I know you know this, that have 10,000, 5,000 followers, but they're inwardly facing to the business. We know who they are. And they post a lot of knowledge, especially in like the PRS community, the long range community.
Yeah.
They post a lot of knowledge. And they still post the quintessential like modeling photo or acting photo.
Right.
And they're not gun bunnies. And that's a terrible term to bestow on them. They're moving the industry forward, and they have as much say or as much influence as someone that might have 100,000 followers because of the quality that they have versus the quantity.
Yeah.
So if you prescribe to the theory of 1,000 screaming fans, you only need 1,000 people to spend $100 on something you believe in or something that you're pushing or branding yourself towards to make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So you don't need, and that's a Tim Ferriss thing. It's not my philosophy. You don't need this like, insane, following, but you have to look at the quality that you're building towards.
Right.
There's a big difference between posting a video, photo, or any marketing tool and attempting to put knowledge out there and add value versus saying, here's me and I'm looking for engagement.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference between the two. So I don't like the term. I don't use the term. I just say this. Are you building a community or are you building a following? They're not the same.
That's a better way to say it.
They're not the same.
I don't want to hate on anyone. I want to do what you want to do. But that's a perfect way to say it. Is, are you doing this for this reason or are you doing it for this reason?
As far as people backing off, which is what you're getting to, I think everybody should back off from anybody who cashes a check in the business. Whether you work a gun counter at an FFL, work at a range, or are a CEO or whatever you are. I think if you work in the business, you've made your point. I work here. I cash a check. Do you? Because 90%, you know this, don't.
Yeah.
So if you don't, then shut the fuck up. And that's how I see it. Because there's a lot of people that are experts from the rough, but they're either retired, out of the game, or don't have anything to do with it. Now, the better way to put it back on somebody is to say, if I'm a marketing director, I'm sitting back, I'm saying to a company, I don't know if their community really fits what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that,
I'm sure that happens a lot.
Well, I think what happens now, Alexis, I think, honestly, and this gets to a bigger question, when you walk into booths at Chacho or you sit with companies or brands you want to work with, I think the biggest thing I look for or I ask is I say, and this is if I'm sitting on the other side of the table making a decision on someone, I'll say, what do they have besides Instagram? Because that tells me their progress, like I said, as an influencer, as an ambassador, as someone. We all know Max Michel, JJ Racaza, like Michelle Viscusi, like these are people, marquee names in the business that they're champions. The Instagram's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Max's, it's not even great. I love you, Max, but he'll say it.
Yeah.
But they're champions, so they can do what they want.
Right.
You look at those people, you look at certain. I mean, JJ's a great page. You know, he puts a lot of knowledge out there. He'll put a lot of stuff and show you his work ethic, his training. He's building a community.
Yeah.
And he's building towards being a face and a spokesperson. And that's another layer. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm sitting in a booth and a company's saying, hey, sit through this interview or this person we're going to sit down, we're going to look at, I'll say, okay, you know, you got a good Instagram, you know, and I look for, like, how organized are they? Are they offering a package? Or are they just saying, hey, I have 30,000 followers, give me some shit?
Yeah.
That's what you look for, is really, like, do they have their shit together? Because I get calls all day about, like, oh, man, you know, I really want to work with this company, I really want to work with that. And I'm like, okay, like, what would be, like, what are you going to offer them? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. You know, what do you mean? So I look for how dialed in somebody is to what they're going to deliver, what makes sense for them. And I think you do the same. You know, you get a call, somebody says, hey, I want to bring 10 people in to shoot full auto. By the way, one of them is, say, you know, John Jones or, you know, whatever,
yeah.
Some high, okay, like, you know, are they be willing to do this? And do they have that? Or so I want to do a full day and they're, okay, we'll do a YouTube. You look for, like, what the packages they're going to offer you. It can't just be willy-nilly. So looking at how organized somebody is and what they're going to deliver and what the deliverables are is really the most important thing to me. That'll set them apart. And instantly, you don't look at them as like a gun bunny or an influencer, which are the dirty words we talked about, but you look at them as, like, business, like they're running a business.
Right, yeah.
Is it a business or are they just fucking around?
Right.
That's how I look at it. But,
yeah.
And that's giving everybody the benefit of the doubt to come in the room and show what they're bringing to the table. Yeah. But it's interesting.
Laid it out pretty well, though.
Try. But I think that's the best way. So I ask you before we wrap, how does this all play out with the election into the SHOT Show? Does SHOT Show happen? How does this all play out with COVID?
I'm pretty sure SHOT Show's happening.
As of right now.
Right. Yeah.
But how does it play out?
Well, it'll end on November 4th.
Good. We could implode. It'd be like, remember, it would be like, I don't know how old you are, it would be like Y2K. Like, the world was going to explode in 2000.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It was just New
We're
Year's.
all waiting
It was just New Year's.
It was just a regular New Year's.
It was a regular New Year. But, I mean, it's going to be a wild time. So how it plays out is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And I don't think, just like we tried to guess how 2020 was going to happen, I don't think we can really put it. I mean, I'm sure you could guess, but something wild's going to happen. Just like every month in this year.
It's the what. It's the what's going to happen.
Right.
Does COVID go away after the election? That's $1 million question.
All signs point to this.
You hope, right?
Yeah.
You hope. It's going to be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah. I think it'll be a mess no matter what.
Yeah. We'll see.
Unfortunately.
Well,
Hopefully
no. You hope not. But we'll see. Listen, this has been amazing. Let everybody know where they can find you, how they can reach you, and how they can follow you.
Again, my name's Alexis Hermosa. I work at Machine Guns Vegas. So if you all want to come shoot some machine guns, come see us. I'm on Instagram, and now that we've had this chat about being organized, I guess I need to do some more stuff. Huh?
You'll be fine. I'm sure we'll talk enough after. You'll be fine. Brief you.
Perfect.
So we'll put the links below to track her down. And if you make it out to Vegas and you want to shoot some full autos, go visit you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're in there all the time. Check it out.
I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you taking the time. Of course. I want to thank all the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. I want to thank Alexis for coming in. Of course, chewing the fat. She'll be back. She's local. Get her back in. I want to thank everybody who sponsors the show. Blackwater Ammunition, Rhino Metals, Gallo, Technologies, and of course, Riton Optics and Galco gun holsters. Appreciate all of them. Can't do it without the sponsors. Full Courts and Firearms too, special thanks to them. We're out.